Solutions to the Dropout Crisis, addressing the dropout crisis one strategy at a time. Brought to you by the National Dropout Prevention Center Network with support from K-12 and Fuel Education and in partnership with Clemson Broadcast Productions.
Good afternoon and welcome to Solutions to the Dropout Crisis, sponsored by K-12 and Fuel Education. We're here in Orlando, Florida at a conference. It's actually two conferences, Reaching the Wounded Student and the Freshman Success Conference. We're very pleased at the National Dropout Prevention Center to bring you this episode of Solutions, and we're pleased that you're joining us today. We have a lot of good things going on at the National Dropout Prevention Center at Clemson University. We've just launched 15 online courses in each of the 15 effective strategies. We have other conferences coming up. Our next conference event will be in October 23 through 25 in Palm Springs, California. So we ask you to go to our website, visit, simply Google Dropout Prevention. You'll go to the world's most utilized dropout resource, our website, www.dropoutprevention.org, where our conferences and other services and offerings are listed. But we're pleased to have you with us today. I'm pleased to have with me today, co-hosting the Solutions broadcast, Karen Withington, Assistant Director at the National Dropout Prevention Center. Karen, who have we got with us today?
Well, today, Sandy, we're going to learn a little bit about a local school district working with a local police department and a great program going on there. And I want to introduce our guests. Also remind everybody to go to the website. On the bottom of the page of this webcast, you can have a discussion board. We'll talk about this topic. We can talk about it on Twitter at NDPCN. We can talk about it on Facebook. And there will be lots of resources as well for our audience. Today I want to introduce our guest. We have Dr. Montina Romero to my right. She is Assistant Superintendent of Students Support Services in Fountain Fort Carson School District 8 in Fountain, Colorado. And she's been in public education for 21 years, 7 as an elementary teacher, 3 years as a school psychologist, and the last 11 years as a district administrator. And for the past 2 years, Dr. Romero has been responsible for her school district's safety and security initiative that includes partnerships with local law enforcement. And then we have Corporal Matt Sanchez. He is a patrol officer with the City of Fountain Police Department, and he performs regular police duties, but he's also the school resource officer at Fountain Fort Carson School in the district. And Corporal Sanchez has been a sworn police officer since summer 2013, having graduated 2012 with a bachelor's degree in criminology from Colorado State University, Puebla, in 2013 with a degree from Pueblo Law Enforcement Academy. And then, Sandy, to your left is Ms. Lisa Zimpich, and she is Assistant Director of Student Support Services in Fountain Fort Carson School District 8. And Ms. Zimpich leads the district mental health team of over 35 school psychologists, counselors, and school workers, and is responsible for mental health service delivery, risk assessments, and crisis response. She's got a passion for developing systems that identify needs for students and families and addressing those needs with evidence-based and collaborative solutions. And to her left is Sergeant Mo Cho of the Fountain Police Department in Fountain, Colorado. In 2004, he was assigned as the only school resource officer for the school district. And sometime after that, he was with Homeland Security Investigation, Federal Human Trafficking Task Force, a lead firearms instructor, crisis intervention trainer, standardized field sobriety test instructor. And in 2016, Sergeant Cho had the opportunity to return to the district and as a sergeant in the school resource officer unit, and now he leads a team of 7 school resource officers in this Fountain Carson district. So today we're going to learn how the police department and the school district are working together to bring us safe schools and good things for the students. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Thank you so much for having us. We're excited to tell our story, and we're excited really to talk about the partnership that we've created over the last couple of years and the focus on improving not only our students in the school, but our students also in the community, and making sure that they have a positive path to becoming good citizens in our community, in our state, and in our nation. So a little bit about who we are. We are a school district that's quite unique. Half of our schools are in the town of Fountain, and half of our schools reside on the military installation, Fort Carson, the Army installation, which makes it a unique partnership with multiple entities. So not only our local police department in Fountain, who have joined us here today, but also the military police that are part of the Army installation. The town of Fountain is unique in that it really, the census doesn't always indicate how many people are there, because it's the voting population, and because we have such a transient population, that's unique, and I know that Sergeant Cho will talk about that here in a minute. But we have one high school that combines both the students that live on the military installation and the students in the town of Fountain, around 1,900 students, probably pressing 2,000 here pretty soon. We have two middle schools, one middle school in the town of Fountain that's around 1,000 students, and a middle school on Fort Carson that's around 650, 700 students. We have 8 elementary schools, 4 on the Army installation and 4 in Fountain. They range anywhere from about 450 students to almost 700 students. So pretty large schools. And then we have an alternative high school that supports around 100, 120 students. So a lot of students that are coming and going. 65% of our population are federally connected, which means their families are either working on the installation, are active duty soldiers, or some connection to the military. About 18% of our students have identified disabilities. The installation is an installation where families can go if they have a service member, if a service member has a family member that has a disability. So it is a location that many families are assigned to because of the services that are available in the community and in the school district. 51% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch. And we really have focused on our dropout rate over the last couple years. And around 97% of our students graduate within the time frame of that 4, 5, 6, 7 year time frame. So we really are proud of that statistic, and we know that a good portion of that is how we build community because of the transient population, the importance of building relationships quickly, helping students feel like they belong is a big part of our mission.
So can you give an example of what you do to help those newcomers into a school?
Sure. So we have a variety of opportunities to welcome families. We have web programs and student ambassador programs that match students with new students in nearly all of our schools. At the high school, the student council, and they have a student-to-student program that's focused on connecting a student that's new to the school district. We also are very supportive of the Interstate Compact, which is a national, all 50 states are actually a part of that now, which allows for students that are connected to the military that are moving to ensure that credits transfer, to ensure that they can participate in sports teams and music events, and that they're not excluded because of the time of year they arrive. So a variety of opportunities also for families connecting with the installation around the Exceptional Family Member Program and making sure that we're having conversations for family members that are moving in that may have needs. But then also our community has a lot of different opportunities, whether that are community fairs, tailgates and before ball games, just a variety of opportunities to try to get families and students connected throughout the school district.
Okay.
I also wanted to make sure that Sergeant Cho has an opportunity. He definitely knows more around the city of Fountain and what that means to us as a school district.
Okay, so City of Fountain, it's approximately 25 square miles wide, and we're annexing land as we speak. We're just growing so fast, I can't keep up with all the new street names that pops up on a daily basis. And with the growth, of course, our schools are getting filled. Because of that, the district recognized that, so we're building a brand new middle school that we're very excited about. It's going to be a building that's going to be state-of-the-art, everything to accommodate the new and modern technology-savvy students. There are 53 sworn officers in Fountain Police Department, and out of the 53, 7 of us are assigned to the school. So that shows the commitment and level of commitment we have with the school district to ensure safety for our students and staff that are in our district. What's another unique thing about our SRO program, unlike any other that are out there, that we do have dedicated K-9, and she works with Corporal Sanchez, and he is her handler. So we don't have to make arrangements with K-9 units to come and to do our sweeps. She's available to us whenever we want, and she just loves children. So and she goes to work when we tell her to go to work, and it's just an awesome opportunity for us. In fact, it's something that other school district wishes that they had. So we do get a lot of phone calls wanting to know if AMP could come and provide services at their school. So we do have the bragging rights, but at the same time, we're very proud of the fact that a city and school district could come together to facilitate such arrangements so that we could ensure that we try to maintain drug-free environments, and then the resources that we're given us and that we have available to us on a daily basis is something that I'm sure a lot of departments would want to model after. So I'm going to have Corporal Sanchez talk about how AMP is integrated into our school and what she does on a daily basis.
Good.
So I've been working with AMP since December of last year. She is a narcotic detection dog. She's single purpose, so she's able to be around people, which is a big plus because when we're in the school of almost 2,000 kids, she comes in contact with a lot of them. So she's extremely friendly. With that being said, she can detect up to 6 different illegal narcotics, as well as article searches. She's trained in search and rescue techniques, so if anybody was to go missing, we have a small juvenile or a small kid in our elementary schools that wander off. She's able to do a track, and we can locate them. So that's all of her. She's a nationally certified German Shepherd dog. She has 2 different national certifications that we both had to go through and work. And then every day we just come to school, and her presence in the building, I think, is a huge deterrent, and that stops any type of drugs that may be coming into our school to make sure that our kids, when they're there to learn, they're there to graduate, and that's what we want to see.
So she's there on regular day.
Regular day. So
she's there.
So she comes home with me at night. In the morning, she gets in the patrol car. We arrive at work. We go in. We greet every student as they get off the bus. We greet them as they send them home at the end of the day. She'll come in after about the end towards lunch. She'll be in the lunchroom, and then what we'll do is we'll do a search throughout the building. So maybe if we need to pull some kids out, and we'll do a classroom. We'll do empty classrooms, and she's just there every day. And in the halls, the same times the kids are doing passing periods, that's when we expect AMP to be out there with us.
I have a question for you folks. Obviously, having 7 school resource officers, a highly qualified K-9 is not free. What's the arrangement between the school system and the law enforcement agency to make this happen?
Sure, we have a partnership, and it's about a 60-40 partnership. The school district assuming 60% of the cost, and the police department assuming 40%. And really it's based on where they're providing their service. If they're providing the service in the schools, then the school is supporting that cost. The school district really sees it as part of our staff, part of our FTE. That's how we expect them to perform in the school. That's how we expect them to integrate and to communicate with students, with staff. We expect them to be at our events. So really it is that partnership of the school district believing this is part of where we want to spend some of our FTE. The school district had a couple of decisions to make 2 years ago. As we've seen increased school violence in Colorado, many of the more prominent school events, school shooting events have been in Colorado, and really deciding whether we're going to go with a private security firm or whether we're going to work with our local police department. That was a decision. We were at that point because, as you know, funds are not readily available, and we're always challenged with where are we going to spend our funds. But we really believed that the partnership with the police department and making sure that we could link them into our prevention efforts was the direction we wanted to go. So 2 years ago, we sat down with the police department, we sat down with a team at the district level with teachers, with administrators, and we came up with kind of our mission around safety and security. And really talking about that partnership and how district and school staffs have to be active participants, and that we were going to partner with our local police department to make that happen and develop the resources and the tools so that we could impact a typical school day by prevention. We know that we can't stop an event after it happens, and so we need our SROs to be proactive in nature and not reactive. So it was a financial commitment from the district. But I do see school districts making that commitment in a variety of ways. Many go with private security detail officers that are patrolling schools. And we just really felt the integration and having some voice at the table along with the police chief, but having a voice of how that should look required a financial commitment from the school district.
Our research at the National Dropout Prevention Center indicates that one of the basic dropout prevention strategies is a safe school environment, and not just a physically safe place from violence, but a place where kids want to be and feel accepted. Now, how do you guys as law enforcement officers and your other officers, how do you integrate personally and climate-wise with the students? How do you make yourself more than just a guard?
It's really just interacting with the kids on a daily basis. We're expected to be in the halls with the kids during passing period. We go to lunch with them. We'll sit down. We'll talk. It's being that approachable. We go to basketball games with them, tailgates, football games. We're there the entire time. So we get to learn the kids' names. We get to learn some back history of it. They get to realize that law enforcement is not just, okay, somebody did something wrong. It's also, we're there as a resource to help them move forward and then keep them safe. So just interacting with them on a daily basis really helped us. My career started in an alternative high school where most of those kids either had a troubled background or really negative interaction with law enforcement. A semester being with them, going to lunch with them every day, being in the hallway with them, talking to them, really turned their perception around about what a police officer really is.
The crucial part is that I see myself as part of the school district. I take ownership of the schools that I supervise, which is all of my schools. However, I think it's really important that school district has say-so as to what type of officer comes into their building, because it can't be any officer, because not all of us are cut out to be an educator. Not all of us are cut out to be a police officer. SRO position is very unique because we are taught to go into a dangerous situation, go make that arrest, take that person into custody. But when I select an officer to be on my team, I'm telling them, hold on, before you arrest them, let's talk about this for a minute. Okay, let's not give these kids head start on criminal history. Kids are born to make mistakes. We all are. So let's talk about this before we do what we need to do as police officers. So coach, teach, mentor is the model that I stress to my officers. We're there absolutely for their safety and security. However, we need to take it another step further and ensure that these kids graduate and that we could provide that assistance to make that happen. So just picking a police officer off the street and say, starting next week, you're in the school, it does not work. Just like when they hire teachers, there's interview process, vetting process. Same thing needs to happen. And school district and the police department need to get together and select those individual officers that are willing to go to that extra mile. Because I've had numerous assignments as a police officer, but let me tell you, SRO is probably one of the tougher assignments I've had. Because at times it's very frustrating, but at the same time I have to know that these are kids. So I need to rethink think away from the traditional policing And what would be the best for this child at this particular moment is the mindset that I need to have and all my cops need to have. Because it's just so easy. Easy way out for us is write that ticket or make that arrest. But willing to go that extra mile to work with that child and really listen to their behavior, as you would say, and what brought them to that point today. And if you think about that, you can't help not to open your hearts and want to help these kids. And that's the kind of police officers you need. But that's not to say don't become that warm, too soft of a cop. You know, when we need to be a police officer, we need to be. However, if you're in an environment where your priority is safeguarding the students, you need to have a different mindset as a police officer. The street mindset cannot be your first and foremost mission when you're in school.
So I think that that's very much speaks to the partnership we've tried to develop over the last 2 years. As I mentioned, we were at a point where we were wondering what do we need to do to make sure our schools are safe, our teachers feel supported, our administrators have the resources that they need. And we did have a relationship with the Fountain Police Department. However, the communication wasn't as fluid as it needed to be. And so we really focused on what does our community need? And because of the high population of students with disabilities, especially students with autism and students who may have mental health needs, we really felt like that partnership is where we needed to focus with the community agency, because our students were going to see these individuals in the community. And if we could have a partnership with the police department, that when our students were in the community, then they would have an extension of our school. And we really felt like that was a better way to go. So we focused on how do we provide training? How do we open that line of communication? How do we ensure that the school district is getting the support that they need for students, but that the Fountain Police Department has that voice, has that ability to be involved in the decision making, but that we were doing right by kids? Because as a school district, our job is to make sure kids are getting what they need every day. That's first and foremost, and what we need to do. And our decision, every decision we have to make is about each individual student. So really looking at the prevalence of violence in Colorado schools that we've seen, that everyone's seen across the nation, looking at Colorado legalized marijuana, and that really made a change in the school district in terms of making sure that we have drug-free zones in a state that did legalize marijuana, and then also making sure that we were building students' understanding of the importance of law enforcement, and that they really are there to be a support for you in the community. Last summer, I think it was a difficult summer around some of the stories around law enforcement, and we wanted to change that perspective. We wanted to build community. The Fountain Police Department did, and the school district wanted to build that sense of community, and that we all had ownership in the community. So we really worked on tailgating events, we worked on training, we worked on creating documents that teachers had that would help guide them into school safety. And then we helped provide students with a path to how to keep schools safe and to get them communicating with our officers. On a daily basis, our school officers are doing a variety of things, and I know we talked a little bit about AMP, we've talked a little bit about just interacting, but there's so many other things that are happening that I'd love for Sergeant and Corporal to talk about just a little bit.
So one of the things that we do to stay involved is we actually help start an Explorer program in our school district. So what we do is we took several kids from our alternative high school and our high school, starting at the age of 14, and we put them through, and they have to have some type of interest in law enforcement or some type of general direction to fill their time kind of thing. So we were able to take some motivated students and really show them what law enforcement's like. It was an after-school program that really took off. We saw a lot of support to the point where our explorers, they started volunteering in our community, really started giving back, and it's a program that's really rewarding, something that we're very happy that we can be a part of right now. Some other stuff that we do is a Drive Smart program throughout our school. So me and the other officers will take part in explaining the importance of driving safe, not driving under the influence, make sure you wear your seatbelt, proper restraints, all that other stuff that we really work on, and we actually compete with other schools to show that we're doing the best possible way to educate the entire student body, just not a select amount of kids, not just student council, not just a certain club, but the entire student body.
So what do you mean compete? How does that?
So what would happen was there's a whole bunch of different guidelines for each school. So what we do is we create a portfolio that would allow us to document, did we go to the elementary school and teach kids how to properly walk across the street, look both ways? Did we teach them the importance of distracted driving, meaning that there's so much stuff that's going on when you're behind the wheel. We don't want you looking at your cell phone. We don't want you playing with the radio, looking out the window. We want you to drive safe. So we document all that stuff. We do flyers. We actually look how many people are wearing their seatbelt when they leave campus. We stress the importance of making sure you buckle up when you leave, stuff like that.
And another thing that we've noticed, and it has become more of a just normal routine type of thing for us now, is that we're invited into classrooms a lot. Unplanned, just the teachers coming up to us, especially in civics class. Hey, we're talking about this and that was on the news the other night. We would like to get you guys' perspective. And we'll just go in the classroom unprepared, but just have discussion with these high school kids about current affairs. Of course, when the Ferguson, Missouri thing was going on, it was on everybody's mind. So I got invited into a civics class, and we freely had an open discussion. There were no right or wrong answers, but just a very calm discussion where we all thought, hey, that was a very productive 45 minutes. And we encouraged that a lot. You know, if we could create any kind of venue that we could put ourselves in a positive environment to reach out to these kids and to show them that we're not just in uniform to stop you for your speeding or take you away or that kind of stuff. We're actually here to work with you and share whatever we might have knowledge-wise to share that with you. So they, after a while, they just see us as part of the staff, part of their group. In fact, we could be in a cafeteria and they'll come up to you and say, hey, I don't use my rank. I don't use my last name. It's either Officer Mo or Mo. Say, hey, could I speak to you about this and that happened? Absolutely. And I want them to feel like they could come and talk to us without feeling any repercussion. But at the same time that they know if there's crime committed, that it's out of my hands, we'd have to do something. But I would say majority of the time, it's a personal issue or family issues. And for them to trust us well enough to come to us with those issues, and we could, whatever we could do to help them, I think they just feel that much better about themselves. And of course, that means our hard work of trying to integrate ourselves into school and passing on that message that we are somewhere you could come for safety and guidance. So it's been working out very well for us.
I have a question, if it's beneficial to the school or even if this is a thing that you do. We're at the Reaching the Wounded Student Conference, filming this right now, but students can come to school having had some traumatic thing the night before, that morning or whatever. Maybe a police department would know about it. The school might not know about it. Is that another benefit? Is there a connection
Absolutely,
there?
ma'am. Mm-hmm. So my department, soon as they go out on a call middle of the night, and it involves one of our students, it doesn't matter what grade, what age, I'm sent a notification right away. So first thing I do is I look at that, and then I notify Montina, say, hey, this incident occurred at this young lady's house. We might reach out, and notify that particular school. So it's not a week later when school finds out, oh, we did not know that family needed help. So, the barrier, the lack of communication has gone away. So it's very timely, it's fast, to a point where the parents are like, how did you know already to reach out to our family to provide us this assistance? So, that kind of stuff, it's something that needs to be done all across the country. Because whenever we go into somebody's house middle of the night, usually it's not for anything good, right? And there's always a child involved. And I think we owe it to the school district, every police department in the nation, to email somebody within school district, because there's always some kind of relationship with this police department and their particular school district. So we need to expedite that. That should be a normal course of business, and that's what we exercise in City of Fountain, my department and the school district.
And certainly I would add, from a mental health perspective, them bringing that information in about whatever happened that evening allows our psychologists and counselors and social workers to meet that student at the door or as soon as possible to gather that information and to make sure we have the right supports in place to connect families with community resources. And so altogether, that partnership really provides strong wraparound services for our students, which has helped a lot.
I'm sure you're wondering, well, how did you make that happen? And I think that sometimes I have to sit back and think, how did we get here? Because 2 years ago it felt so different, and I didn't know that we could be to where we are today, I guess, so quickly. And I think there's just a couple of things that a school district and a police department can do to speed that process up a little bit. And I think it starts with that memorandum of understanding. If you actually write down what the expectations are from each entity, that really helps you to stay on track, because you can always come back to it. And even if there wasn't a financial partnership as well, I think still that memorandum of understanding is important, so that each person knows what they're responsible for, and that's been very helpful for us. And for us to have dedicated officers and be a part of the process, as Sergeant Cho said, to be part of that interview process. There are times where I'll sit in with Sergeant Cho and we'll interview together, depending on the situation, that the police department knows where the school district is having the most challenge in a given year, so that we can adjust resources. All of those things are very helpful. And as we've grown and we've developed trust, this is going to be the first year which these two officers are going to have access to our student database, because there are so many things that were unforeseen before we had this partnership that we need each other's help with. And there has to be that level of trust and commitment so that we're sharing information. Of course, confidentiality continues to be a priority for us, but there is information when a student's in danger, when the community's in danger, that fluid flow of information is important. And if that's in your memorandum of understanding, everyone feels a little bit more comfortable with that happening. The other thing is we created a district safety manual for administrators and teachers that we shared and that we have posted and that our parents can have access to, so everybody knows what our expectations are in terms of entering the building, in terms of how the school resource officers will be interacting, not propping doors open, all of those things that really keep your school safe. So now everyone's on the same page, and the police department can help support that. Just the other night I got a phone call, I think from Corporal Sanchez in the middle of the night, that we had a gate open at our transportation department. So those are things that we're all looking out for each other now, and it feels like a community partnership, and it doesn't feel like we're siloed, and what happens during the school day is the school's issue, and what happens after school is the police department issue. It really is a partnership that we're communicating. And the other thing I think we're really proud of is the yearly training. We've now had 2 years in a row which the police department has had 3 days of training in one of our schools, and our staff and our administrators and our students have participated, volunteer basis. But this year we focused on scenarios that were not as aggressive scenarios, but more conversation scenarios, where officers had to come in and support a student with autism that may be having aggressive behavior, or as parents that are coming in talking about a custody issue and being concerned about a custody issue, and that our patrol officers are getting that practice of coming in and communicating with our administrators and communicating with each other, I think is a step in the right direction to help with that common language, which when you have common language, you really can accomplish a lot more. And we do have different perspectives of how to handle given situations. So we're all very proud of that.
Speaking of communication, one of the common things we hear from school people who are trying to identify the students that are at risk, they're looking at the risk factors, and our research says that over half the risk factors are either in the family or the community, not in the school. And many times the school personnel say, well, we can only identify the risk factors that are attendance or grades or behavior in the schoolhouse. It sounds like you all have utilized the resource officer network to bridge some of that communication and bring some of the risk factor information from the family and the community into the schoolhouse door.
Absolutely, and Ms. Imprich has some information here that around how we're actually housing that information and how we're able to access that on any given situation. So if I get a phone call at midnight about a student that's struggling in the community, where I can look up and say, hey, these are all the things you need to know. So our main concern is keeping that student safe and then hopefully preventing anything further from happening. So I think this is one of the things that we're most proud of over the last year in developing our student information system.
Absolutely, and Colorado has been the site of probably more than our share we would like of school shootings and just violent acts in general. And one of the outcomes of that, in particular the Arapahoe High School shooting, was something called the Claire Davis Act for Colorado. But really part of that, when you read through all the information and all the reviews of that particular incident, they talked about how there was a lot of information on that student with regard to mental health needs and community needs and family needs over the course of several years, but there wasn't a common, consistent place to house that information. So by the time that student was in high school, much of that information had been lost through middle school and elementary school and throughout the community. And so over the course of the last year, we have, through our student information database, created a separate tab of information that only select individuals can either enter data into or see, but really track some important information, suicide risk assessments and the outcomes of those assessments, not the details, just did it occur and what was the outcome, threat assessment information, DHS reports, information on safety contracts that we may have for students or home contacts that we have made, along with mental health supports that we're providing by the district, as well as referrals that we've made to community mental health supports. And so that, we just finished up our first year of that data tracking, and that will work into the future, and we're already making improvements in terms of how that looks for our mental health providers and our administrators to use, so they'll be able to have both kind of building level data and then be able to drill down even into individual student data. So over the course of several years, we'll have really robust knowledge and information to be able to keep kids safe, both in the school and in the community.
And for your context too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And one of the other major pieces of that are our communication tools and our Safe to Tell and our Safe Mail information. And I know that Sergeant Cho and Corporal Sanchez have worked a lot around Safe to Tell and ensuring that we are using it appropriately in the district. So I don't know, Matt, you probably, if you want to give a little bit of a...
So we have a program that started in the state of Colorado for Safe to Tell. It's actually through our Attorney General's office that's actually trying to go nationwide. And essentially what's happening is it allows our students to report anonymously information that's going on, whether it's harassment, bullying, suicide, threats to the school, weapon offenses, drugs, anything like that. The way they do it is they can select what school it's specifically involved with. And what happens is each school, the SROs can see every school in our district, and we're able to disseminate that information correctly. We're able to react correctly and see what's going on. So, for example, if we get a student that's saying that they're possibly suicidal, a friend is concerned for their welfare, what we could do is we could take that information that comes to us through a dispatch center, and we're able to locate that student, make sure that they're safe, make sure we can get them the help they need, make sure that we're keeping the school. There's certain admin people inside each school that have access to the Safe to Tell as well. The way we get this information out is one of our jobs as SROs is to educate our students. So we started at the 5th grade level in all of our schools, and we put this information out. We teach them. Essentially, when I was going through school, it was, all right, this is how you dial 911. Now we're teaching them, okay, now this is Safe to Tell, and this is how you can access it. There's 3 different methods. They can do it from a cell phone. They can do it online. They can make a phone call. And essentially, that information can possibly save a life, and that's how we teach them. So by the time they get into the middle school and by the time they get into high school, they're already very familiar with this program and how effective it can be.
So the other part of that is that our school administrator also gets the same email. So as the SROs are getting it, the school administrator's getting it, and then that's what leads us to really a lot of our assessments, whether that's our suicide risk assessment or a threat assessment. It leads us to understanding how do we support that student, not only in the school setting, but also in the community.
Are you seeing a lot of suicide risk?
Yes, so
Yes.
the numbers are really pretty staggering.
So yes, this past year, our mental health team did a total of 365 suicide risk assessments. Over 30 of those were a result of Safe to Tell reports for suicidal ideation or significant depression. So again, demonstrates that collaboration is so important because it's information that for whatever reason that student didn't feel comfortable or confident going to a school official about. Many of those came out as medium high or imminent risk, and so at that point we have many people involved in order to be able to support those students. We also had over 100 threat assessments over the course of the year in which a student had somehow one way or another indicated that they wanted to hurt others. And law enforcement is frequently involved, not in the initial threat assessment where we're really looking at how do we better support this student and what supports is the student going to need later on. But once we determine that is a significant threat, there's a secondary review process that Dr. Romero can talk about in which our law enforcement is involved to really help determine what kind of discipline measures and where else does this information need to go in order to keep our broader community safe as well.
So I think one of the hardest communications that happen is when you do have somebody who's threatening to hurt themselves or especially threatening to hurt others, is when do you separate the mental health need from your whole school population need? And that can become a tricky balance. Obviously, we want our entire school to be safe, our entire population, but we also want the student who's experiencing or who has experienced trauma to get the support they need. So we have very much separated the suicide and threat assessment from what we consider a secondary review, which uses those FBI questions to really reflect on the student, the situation in the community, in the school. What do we really know about the history of the student? How do we ensure that the school is safe? And recognizing that a school's obligation to a student, and it may not be discipline in nature, but it may be support in nature. And so whether that's getting additional supports in the school, additional supports in the community, a placement that allows the student's mental health needs to be met to keep everyone safe, and including the student, is important. And with our high numbers, we did have 2 completed suicides last year, and we do have a population that is experiencing trauma on a daily basis. When you have parents that have been deployed nearly your entire life. You might be 12, but your parents probably been deployed 6 of those 12 years. You have families that are experiencing poverty. You have that transient, a lot of movement. You really have to make sure your system is in place to prevent as much as possible and ensure that students feel safe at school, feel like it's a place that can be supportive, and that the community is also there to support them.
And I would say one of the benefits of that as well is that the supports that they have with our SRO teams in the building can also help support them at home. So many times after we conduct a suicide risk assessment, we may have supports in place for them at school, but our SRO team can go visit them on a weekend. They can go do a welfare check. They can make sure that they're doing okay in the community, and then again report back to us, for example, after a weekend on a Monday morning so that we know what to expect and how to help.
I know you're last slide of your PowerPoint has your contact information.
Yeah.
So I want to be sure it's okay for people to contact you for
Absolutely.
further questions, because I know there are more questions about how it actually all works. And
It certainly is, and this has been a great session, a very informative solutions broadcast. As a K-12 educator for so many years, and as a school board member now, I keep thinking we've got to find a way to replicate this type of cooperation and collaboration. I find myself thinking, when I was a principal of an alternative school, I wished I'd had this type of system. I had a good SRO, but I needed this cooperation between the community and the school, and the flow of information is a phenomenal breakthrough that many people are struggling with. So you folks have been wonderful to us. I hope that our viewers will contact our guests, learn from them. I hope you'll share this webcast. It'll be archived on our website. Remember that you can go to www.dropoutprevention.org, or just Google Dropout Prevention. We're the top hit, and our solutions broadcasts are right there to share with your friends and to help educators and your colleagues learn from around the country. I hope that you'll continue this conversation. Karen gave us the Twitter information. You can email us at the National Dropout Prevention Center from our website, and we'll be glad to put you in touch. We'll be glad to share information or answer any questions that we might have. Also, remember that we at the National Dropout Prevention Center exist to provide services and information to you who do this kind of work on a daily basis. And so we ask that you will continue to utilize us. Karen, it's time to say goodbye. Another solution show brought to us by K-12 and Fuel Education. We're very pleased at the National Dropout Prevention Center to provide solutions. I want to thank our guest again, number one, for coming all the way to Orlando from Colorado to share and to learn with us, and also for doing this solutions broadcast. You've been gracious to us. We thank you so much, and viewers, tune in for another solution.